Connected Consumer.
Hello, Connected Consumers. My name is Rosie Sarah, and I'm one of the hosts of Parks Associates podcast, The Connected Consumer. This podcast is all about Parks Associates' data-driven market insights on emerging consumer technology products and services, featuring our talented analyst team and industry leaders bringing in new and innovative products to market. In this podcast, you'll get an inside look at the latest industry trends focused on the connected consumer, home automation and security, energy management, connected health and independent living, as well as digital content and video services. So today, we're going to be tuning into a special roundtable session sponsored by Alarm.com from our Connections Conference series from this past October. This session's title is State of Commercial and SMB Security, Video is the New Perimeter. It focuses on the growing role of video verification and analytics in security solutions for commercial and small to medium businesses. Another key topic was how video is the new perimeter and the impact of automated platform-based technology solutions on business operations. So this special roundtable session was moderated by Parks Associates President and CMO, Elizabeth Parks, and it included the following speakers: Uday, Kiran, Chaka, CEO of Sentry AI; Dominique, Meyer, CTO of CamerEye; James, Reno, Vice President of Commercial Sales at Alarm.com; Avery, Rigg, Sales at Professional Sales Agents; Steven, Soltis, Sales Manager, Vector Security; and last but not least, Matt Vallis, Consultant at Complex Solutions and Smart Buildings at TELUS. So before we jump into the session recording, I wanted to give you guys a quick intro and some data points on this topic. So you might hear the term SMB come up various times as you listen to this episode. This stands for small and medium-sized businesses. SMBs are looking to add advanced safety and security solutions to protect and enhance their business operations. And according to Parks Associates research, 40% of SMBs are likely to acquire security and or safety products in the next 6 months, with cameras and professionally installed security systems as the top desired solutions. Additionally, 21% of SMBs report their need for products and services to protect and or monitor the physical safety of their business locations or employees has increased since COVID-19 began. So wanted to give you guys with those little tidbits of data just to have in the back of your mind as you tune in and listen to this super insightful episode. If you're interested in learning more about Parks Associates research, please feel free to visit our website at www.parksassociates.com. If you're interested in learning more or attending our Connections Conference, please visit www.connectionsus.com. If you are interested in anything about the smart home market, home security, and any new emerging consumer technology services for the home. Now, let's tune into the special roundtable session sponsored by Alarm.com, and we'll get back to you soon.
Thanks for joining me today. I'm Elizabeth Parks, President and CMO of Parks Associates. Welcome to our special session today, part of the Connections series sponsored by Alarm.com. I'm so excited about our conversation today, focused on security and more in the SMB, that is the small to medium business market, as well as the commercial markets. We have an awesome lineup of speakers to address this big topic, representatives from different areas of the market. If this is your first time interacting with us, Parks Associates is an independent market research firm that specializes in emerging consumer technology. And you'll see some of our research throughout today's sessions. We have built a proprietary set of data across 40 years with a unique methodology of surveying 10,000 internet households each quarter. This gives us an incredibly rich set of consumer trending data. But today I'm going to show you research from our study of 1,000 small to medium businesses with 100 staff or less. Again, we have an awesome lineup of speakers today. I'm going to start with presenting some of our data to help set the stage for the discussion. We have 75 minutes for this special session, so we can dive deep into these topics. We're going to talk about what's driving demand in the SMB and commercial markets, the impact of the service-driven economy on the small to medium business market, along with remote workforce changes. I'll address the size of the market, the spending and perspective on security services, and the value of integration and future demand for technology. If we step back and take a look at this big picture, we have to recognize where we are right now. We are in the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. Everything is about digital transformation, data, devices, systems, and the services that can stem from them. We see this transformation taking place in the energy markets, the security markets, and the broadband markets, and certainly is impacting consumers, enterprise, and commercial business, and certainly SMB. These are major areas that Parks Associates covers in our research work. And when we look at the security and video market, we're really talking about the extension of services as a result of AI. Video analytics and video verification have added new elements for businesses to consider when thinking about safety and security, remote investigations, and information about the environment. There are also huge implications for search, video storage and review, as well as the ability to monitor inventory and valuables. So tech is being embraced by consumers and businesses, and advancing innovation is advancing overall. These new products are being adopted by the small business market. And so let's take a look at the size of the market. There's about 31 million small businesses in the US, and almost all businesses are small. This is an amazing stat that really reinforces the importance of the SMB market, really as the backbone of American business. Also, the power of small business is clear when you consider that 64% of new jobs annually are coming from SMBs. This is about 1.5 million new jobs. And along with this job creation are coming some new and unique challenges that SMBs are facing as a result of COVID, the remote work transformation, staff turnover, and the different ways that onboarding has to take place as a result of moving to a distributed workforce. SMBs are operating from a variety of different locations depending on their business, but the common thread throughout is simply rock solid connectivity. When we ask SMBs their intentions to spend on different IT spending, we see that nearly 40% indicate an intention to spend on their Wi-Fi networks, and over a third indicating intentions for cybersecurity services. And in that third, the third list there is premise security, looking at systems and devices to protect staff and that business location. And looking at security services, we see that about half of small, medium businesses have a security system now, and the majority of those are monitored. Also, just over 20% indicating an increased need for these types of solutions to help protect and monitor the physical safety of their business. And when we dive deeper into this question, asking what solutions these businesses are looking for, we see that it is all around cameras, security, sensors, and devices that provide more information on what's going on in the environment. This is a huge area of growth, and one that we're going to really talk extensively about with our panel of experts. When we look at data security and cybersecurity needs, there is a clear and huge concern for home networks, for consumers at home working and being able to protect the home network. Security of files, being able to support remote staff, and dealing with on-site management of communications and the network are critical in today's business environment. We see this interest for technology and services extending to all of the different business location types that we have been researching. So all of these services are becoming popular, and that traditional mall as well as the strip malls you can see are the ones who are really looking into these services, particularly with Wi-Fi. We also see that in the multifamily space, we continue to have very large investments here. Camera monitoring and smart parking solutions are some of the top safety and security use cases. This is an area where Parks Associates sees really explosive growth in the future, and with major investments being made now. Clearly, the infrastructure of the building is going to be the most important aspect for services in the future. And lastly, I really want to emphasize the role of the bundle. This chart is coming from our consumer data work of 10,000 internet households, and clearly showing that the more services that you bundle together, the higher the NPS score. This creates a stickier customer. You have more engagement with them. That's leading to more satisfaction, as well as more feedback for that service provider. We see this across all subscription service areas that we cover in our research, and the power of the bundle really is real, which is why that extension of security services beyond is becoming so compelling. So in our session today, we're going to be hearing from our experts talking about the changes in the market, specifically the impact of video and video verification, video analytics, in driving the market forward. So with that being said, I would like to introduce our awesome lineup of experts here. Thank you again to Alarm.com for their support of Parks Associates research, as well as this particular topic. We are going to start with an introduction of each speaker. They'll share their role, what their company does, their position in the market. If you have questions throughout our conversation, please put them in the Q&A chat tab, and I will incorporate them as we go. So let's bring our panelists forward, and we're going to start with James. So James, thank you again for being here. Let's have you go ahead and introduce yourself and your role at Alarm.com.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Well, excited to be here. My name is James Reno. I'm the Vice President of Commercial Sales with Alarm.com. I've spent over 20 years in the security industry in both identity management and commercial physical security, working across sectors from SMB, state and local, to enterprise and federal governments. So just a little bit about Alarm.com. We're a SaaS cloud provider in our 22nd year in business, probably best known as a pioneer and innovator in the smart home interactive residential space. Like many businesses, it's evolved over the years, and we started our commercial journey about 7 years ago. It's one of the fastest growing segments of our business, and we're super excited about it. And today's topic, video and video analytics, are at the forefront of our journey to create a better user experience with actionable insights. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to the conversation. We will talk a little bit about the technology. So when we think about the technology, a lot of customers would think about security as kind of ubiquitous with anything that has to do with video access or intrusion. And a lot of times these technologies historically have been disparate. So really our value proposition and where we fit in the market is creating a unified security platform. We believe that that creates a better user experience. And you can see there on the right, we'll talk a bit about the video analytics and the role that plays here today. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thanks so much for being here. And let's see, we have Uday. So also joining us from Sentry AI. So let's let you go ahead and introduce yourself and what you're working on, where your position is in the market as it relates to SMBs.
Yeah, thanks, Elizabeth. A great pleasure to be here with all of you. My name is Uday Kiran Chaka. I'm the founder and CEO of Sentry AI. Sentry AI is the leading AI video analytics company, which is powering a lot of security providers and monitoring centers to monitor their customers more efficiently and accurately. We have been the pioneers in bringing the latest advances in deep learning technology to our AI algorithms, and that's what's kind of giving us a big edge in this market. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us. We also have Dominique, the CTO of CamerEye. Dominique, thanks for joining us today. Let's have you introduce yourself and CamerEye.
Good morning, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for having us today. So I'm Dominique Meyer. I'm the acting CTO of CamerEye. At CamerEye, we're developing the global leading solution in understanding how AI and computer vision is redefining smart and safe pool and spa experience using purely vision-based technology and artificial intelligence. So started in 2019, Sai, our founder, really had a passion for water sports, and he wanted to bring the safety component into the pool backyard space. So over the last 2 years, we've been developing a whole scenarios of applications that allow us to commercialize and monetize some of these applications. And with that, we've really built out a huge network of small business and medium businesses that allow us to deploy these systems into the pool construction space, which we'll talk a little bit about, and then also provide the at-home safety component for all users of the pool. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to this panel.
Great. And definitely the commercialization of all this is definitely something we're going to be talking about today. So thanks for being here. Avery, let's let you introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm Avery Rigg. I'm here with Professional Sales Agents. We've been around since 1978, specializing in a manufacturer's rep position. We sell multiple lines of security cameras and then also specializing in Fluke Networks testers. So when it comes to a data standpoint, I understand what they are looking for on bandwidth issues, understanding the small business world, and then also the commercial world, as in industry standards as far as security premises and knowing what people are looking for when it comes into access control and getting into and maintaining security within your business or data center or even shopping malls and also large apartment complexes. But we really do appreciate you guys having us on board, and thank you very much for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. You bring a unique perspective we'll be tapping into. So, Stephen, we'll invite you to introduce yourself and Vector Security.
Great. And again, thanks, Elizabeth, for having me. And I also want to have a big shout out to James, because Alarm.com is a huge part of our industry or our business here at Vector Security, especially on the commercial side. So big shout out to you, James. My name's Steve Soltis. I've been in the industry now for a little over 30 years. I'm obviously more on the end user side. So, that's another reason why Avery is joining us today to help out answering a lot of the technical questions behind the scenes. But I've been in business about over 30 years. I manage the DFW area, the Shreveport area in Louisiana, and also down in New Orleans, the Baton Rouge area. And excited to be on and learning and to learn some more good stuff and to share what knowledge I have.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Matt, you're up next representing TELUS. Tell us about yourself and TELUS.
And with TELUS, we are the third largest telecom in Canada. We are the largest telecom in Canada with a focus on commercial security as well as residential smart home security. I'm a design consultant, and I specifically work with property managers and developers in terms of building integrated security solutions for their buildings.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here as well. This is really a great panel with different perspectives. I want to start off in really looking at what has changed as far as innovation goes, specific to video. And so, James, I'm going to come to you with this question to lead us off. What do you see is, have we reached a tipping point here with technology as far as where we are with the evolution of things and the applications that can stem from them?
Sure. Yeah, I think we have. We're always on this journey. There's something called Moore's Law, where everything gets half the size and twice as fast. So with processors, they're getting faster. They're coming down in cost, so we can do more on the edge with the cameras and analytics. Being able to leverage the cloud to do some processing, and all of those kind of innovations and technologies help drive the cost down to customers. It also increases the user experience where they can consume it. So I think that those technologies have really helped customers kind of be able to realize the value of the solutions out there. And they're not just for the large companies. So, one of our big focuses at alarm.com is to democratize these things, make them available. Big box retailers could afford, sophisticated video analytics when it related to heat mapping or people counting and things of that nature. 5 years ago, that was pretty common. So it's not that the technologies are new. It's just they become easier and more affordable for the SMBs. And I think that's super exciting to be a part of that journey.
Well, and let me ask a follow-up question there in terms of this idea of video being this new perimeter. Can you explain from alarm.com's vision, what does this mean?
Sure. So, we can all kind of appreciate that it was difficult to get a remote notification prior to video analytics. So you had to wait for an incident and you had to wait for your perimeter to actually be broken or violated for a signal to come in. With video analytics and the maturity of them, where you can actually reliably tell if an individual or a vehicle has entered a property, that is a game changer. So now the perimeter is not just your physical building, but it's your property. And that will give you, an actionable insight that if it's a known person, then you don't do anything. If it's obviously an unwanted guest, then you have different options at your fingertips. So your perimeter's now been extended because of video and video analytics. So that's a pretty exciting topic for today.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into talking about the commercialization of these services, the how to make the money parts, how to convince companies to be investing in new technology that ultimately is going to serve them better. So, Uday, I want to start here with you and get your perspective, and then Dominique, I'm going to come to you next. So, tell me what is happening. How are you all able to show the business model and show the value that can be brought by advanced technologies, and then ultimately getting services out at the other side?
Yeah. So from the perspective of how this came about, right? What has actually happened in the last few years, and how is it now becoming commercial ready? So I have been following this field for now 10 years in the computer vision AI. I have 2 granted patents. And what I've seen as the interesting developments that are leading us to where we are now are first and foremost the deep learning computer vision AI algorithms, which are now powering all these self-driving car efforts, right? So all these came out of this deep learning technology base. So that became possible. The second one was as James already mentioned, the cost of compute with this Moore's law has actually started coming down. The third one is importantly purpose-built AI for security. So here the idea is, how can I replicate thinking of a security guard or a security professional and bringing it into software and work reliably in very challenging conditions, whether it's nighttime, whether it's raining, whether it's fog, whether it's disturbed by the foliage or the animals or birds. How can you still reliably provide security? So that was the next evolution to kind of create this purpose-built AI. From there on, actually, we had a lot of software players in the ecosystem that have made it easier to adopt AI as well and bring it into the command centers and security monitoring centers. Then the last part is you have now enterprising security providers who are adopting it and, very importantly, providing feedback that is going back to help improve the quality of AI. So this is what has actually brought us to the point where, as Elizabeth, you and James already recounted, the video has become now usable. It has now become a tool to prevent crime from happening in the first place and not use it for forensic evidence afterwards. I think that's the big change that has happened. And especially in the last couple of years, the technology has matured. The accuracy levels in some cases have reached more than 99%, to the point where you can now trust the system. And the security providers, who naturally have to be very skeptical, have now started trusting the system. And with the cost curve again bending down and to be making this come almost to the point of around 30% of having a live station guard, it has now become extremely, extremely valuable for companies to adopt this technology and go forward. I mean, if they were on the fence waiting for this to mature, I think the time has come for them to actually do so. The last part related to commercialization is the cost. What is it going to cost, and how quickly or easily can I get these benefits? Because of the, again, evolution of this SaaS providers, software as a service providers, and Alarm.com, James, as you said, is one of the leading providers here. The cost of actually adopting these has come down significantly. You don't have big upfront costs. You need to just install these cameras, and in some cases, the security providers are even subsidizing that part by bundling it into their services. So with that, and in many cases, because the cloud-based model, the cameras are able to, whatever existing infrastructure you have, without any technological upgrade, you can connect them to the video analytics in the cloud. So because of that, and because of the overall cost of providing the service coming down, many companies, many businesses are able to realize savings from day one. Because they look at the cost of how much it will cost them to have a security guard station there, and once they adopt the solution, especially in a OPEX model rather than the CAPEX model, they find that the savings start from day one. So I think the time has come for this technology to be widely adopted, and we are seeing that already with a lot of our customers, especially in the North America and Europe. And we see that pervading to the rest of the world as well.
Yeah, all really good points. And I mean, we've seen the levels of anxiety rise on the consumer front, as well as businesses just being, concerned about safety and security, just being a major issue. Dominique, let's come to you also on this commercialization. What we're talking about is, hardware, software, data, and then the services at the other side, this hardware as a service idea that we've been talking about for a long time, and a lot of companies struggling to figure out, how to really make that work. So tell me a little bit more from your perspective. What are some of the successes that you see with the selling points in, commercializing sensor-based, information coming across in real time to be able to use it for some, very, very valuable services?
Yes, that's a really exciting space because commercialization is really about creating value. So when we started CamerEye, it was all about providing that safety aspect to the pool space. So how can we make sure that our grandkids that enter the backyard are alerting anyone in the house that there is now a kid in the backyard, right? So it's all about the safety. But as we grew the business, we really found this hook, right, as we call it, that brought us to these three pillars of the company. So the first one is really on the maintenance and operations side. So how are we now able to use the same product, which is used for the safety aspect, during the pool construction? So what we started doing is partnering with pool builders that then put out these camera systems and use the same AI to actually look at the construction progress monitoring and using that as a commercialization approach rather than just the pool safety aspect. The pool safety aspect is still our core value creation for our end business or consumer customers. But then what also brings us further down the road is a third pillar, right? So how do we now link this into the automation and connectivity? So with that end, we're looking at how do we integrate with pool cleaners, looking at, pool covers and so on. So that allows us to create values, not only across the safety aspect, but from the construction, operation of the pool into the safety. And that's what really allowed us to commercialize and create value as a product, even though it's just a hardware piece. We're not commercializing on the software on multiple ends. So that's a really important part, is sort of thinking about how can we use different aspects of the value creation from our product to be able to ensure that commercialization.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like you're looking at these various factors that can be impacted through that use of technology, and then businesses really taking into consideration. I mean, these are not small tweaks that are happening. These are stakes in the ground of how we are going to help transform our business and why, and what's the value that gets attached to these new services that we're going to pay for, whether that's helping protect staff or employees coming in and out of a retail environment, or protecting the inventory that you have around. All of this speaks to the necessary requirements that have to happen in the building in the infrastructure side. And so, Matt, I want to come to you next with this question on, how does this go for building? It could be a property manager, it could be a retail, strip mall type setting store, a shopping center. How are they approaching this? Do they understand technology? Do they have teams of people who make these types of decisions? And then, Avery and Steve, will come to you next and get your perspective on this question as well.
Yeah, so absolutely. When we start thinking about the technologies that are in place and the infrastructure that used to be required for cameras and CCTV systems, it used to be a lot of people still think in the manner of the camera needs to directly connect to a server on site. We got to think about cabling. We got to think about conduit. We got to think about that kind of back end infrastructure. And now with the modernization of cameras and cloud recording and direct connections into networks, there's no longer that requirement for that extensive internal back end work that needs to be done anymore. And especially when you're working with a lot of smaller businesses who may or may not have the ability to afford that infrastructure, to be able to implement a cloud recording solution instead of having to build a large internal network for a camera system is much more appealing, and it's a low cost option. And that's something that we can discuss with them. So we would present that to a lot of our small business owners, saying you can go with a cloud solution versus an on-prem solution. The other beneficial of a cloud solution versus an on-prem solution is it's something that they can access from anywhere in the world through an app or through their website or through whatever. So now you're reducing an operational cost because you no longer have to have somebody on site checking video, running to stores, going all over the place. They can be doing it from anywhere. So and that also reduces the requirement sometimes for a guard footprint as well, because now you're using the cameras instead to provide you that feedback when people are in spaces that they don't need to be in. So because of the advancements in the technology in the camera industry, we're able to provide lower cost solutions for those small and medium-sized businesses.
Yeah, and I would imagine this would come into play big time with multiple properties or a business that might have multiple buildings or shops, and that ability to understand what's happening at all of them effectively in one view, along with those notifications.
Absolutely.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay, Avery and Steven, I'm going to come to you all together here. But Steve, let's start with you on the end user side and how these services are getting sold. What's the response? How are the businesses? Is that demand really being seen on your end? Tell us a little bit about how that goes. And then I know Avery's got a little bit more experience on the technical aspects, so he could add on in implementation actually of these services.
Sure. So, what we have found from the end user side that, consumers are not really educated and aware of, the technology and what the value is of having, to have the cameras with analytics and the things that kind of go with it. So what we find is that, educating our reps and making sure that they're knowledgeable to go out there and present the presentation and make sure that they're aware of all the different options, so on and so forth. The biggest thing that we found in our market is building value. In some cases, it's not necessarily how much it costs. It's really building the value and what their needs are and base our presentation around the needs of the customer. How we go about generating the business, so on and so forth. I mean, our reps are really successful at collecting COs and finding certified occupancies of new people that are moving in, and they go out there and they work around that direction to create some business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, finding the demand too, and just making sure people understand what the options are. I think the pace of technology is so fast these days. I mean, it's hard to keep up, even if, like us, we're studying this every day and new things are coming out all the time. So the business owners and the end consumer ultimately is having to make decisions about some really complex things in the environment. Avery, do you have any comments you want to add in here in terms of the investments and then how the technical side is actually working, getting this kind of technology in a small SMB environment?
Yes, with both what Matt and Steve both said is exactly correct. And when we're talking an SMB setting, this could be a car lot all the way down to a nail salon or a hair salon. These customers are not in the typical everyday AI community that all of us are in and understanding. So we present that in a different way for these customers or building owners or occupancy owners in a way to understand on how AI is actually wrapping in and saving them and protecting them and their customers and presenting that value like Steve said. And the next thing that we're doing is creating the budget and understanding what their budget needs are. And we want to fill in and step into that exact budget so they are happy. I mean, that's the best way that we do it. And understanding these people have no idea what a network is in most cases, and then us being able to go in and actually create that value for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so much education. A lot of things you stated are so true. Just that investment for a small business is a lot, right? Because it could be an under 10-person business. It could be a 1-person business that still is requiring these solutions, and they have those tight budgets. Technology does require that investment, and it also can help companies save money, and also perhaps, just understand things better so that they can operate differently, and more streamlined. And so, James, let's go back to you on this question of, what's the operational savings? Is this something that is immediate? Is it over time? Is it something you tell an SMB, hey, if you do this, that, and the other in 18 months, you're going to realize you didn't have to hire 2 people. You didn't have to follow up on inventory tracking. You didn't have to, spend hours of time searching through video just to figure out what might have happened. What are the benefits that Alarm.com and your partners are sharing and selling these solutions?
Yeah, there's a lot of different areas I could go with this. Uday mentioned, the difference between a CapEx versus an OpEx budget. I think that SMBs appreciate having, a smaller incremental monthly fee versus trying to come up with the capital to install a larger on-premise system. So there's definitely some operational benefits there. I think that the technology lends itself, first, it has to be user-friendly. These folks wear a lot of hats. I don't think it's about their acumen at times. I think it's more about how much can they get done in a day. And the easier the technology is, obviously, the more they can spend time on other things. And time is where, that's the biggest cost to any SMB or any business for that matter. So giving them back some time and only providing them meaningful insights when there's actually something to review. Some of the obvious things that we do from a platform standpoint, with some of the business activity analytics, helping them with staffing, making sure they understand their customer traffic, making them understand line abandonment. If the line queues are too long, that helps with staffing. And then something that, you guys revealed to us that we hadn't probably thought about as much, albeit the technology lent itself to it, was that employers are actually more concerned about their employees stealing time than they are about actual product theft in some cases. So I don't think that was the exact terminology, but when I shared that story about employers worried about people leaving early or coming in late, a friend of mine referred to that as stealing time. And he said that was one of the biggest costs to his business. It's also, fair to appreciate that if your business isn't opening on time or is closing early, you're losing revenue opportunities there too. So there's a lot with regards to operational efficiencies. Our partners benefit from having one platform to install versus 2 or 3 from different vendors. The customer is trained on one product, so it helps them from a sustainable standpoint to be able to manage and support their clients. So there's a lot I think we can do. I think it's probably one of the areas we're most proud of at Alarm.com, what we're offering both the partners and the end users in the way of operational efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there really is a lot to be said about the additional information that you can have, whether it's people stealing time or perhaps whether it's the number of children in the school building that might happen in an active shooter situation, right? Now you have the emergency responders understanding how many people are in the building, how many people are out of the building, how many people just came out of the building, where are the people? This is an area that Parks Associates is working on. We're about to release a white paper on school safety and really that important value that video verification and detection analytics can play in that environment, which of course is one that is so important to make sure our kids are safe at school. So Uday, let's go back to you here and talk a little bit about the access control and this video and how you can find those savings as well as be generating revenue. Oh, it looks like you might be on mute. There you go.
Yeah, there. So first of all, I think we all agree that we are kind of in a knowledge economy, right? And most valuable companies, Apple, like Alphabet or Amazon, they all list people as their biggest asset. And what we are seeing all the way down to like a convenience store level is the care, as you mentioned, about employee safety, about in case of schools, about the safety of children. And that is actually becoming a very big driver of adoption of all the security solutions, whether it is for intrusion, with video or access control. The primary driver is about the safety of your employees or customers or visitors. And as a quick anecdote here, one of the convenience stores that we're working with was almost at the verge of closing down. Why? Because there are just a lot of homeless people who are loitering and creating unsafe situations for their employees, and the employees didn't want to come. When they started using this, what we call as the nuisance reduction solution that our partner actually provided, which is a combination of cameras, like loudspeakers, strobe lights, and backed by this AI and humans. I mean, it's a complete solution. Whenever they saw people there, the cameras relayed the information to the AI. The AI detected there is a person, and this person is not a typical customer, but the behavior shows it's a loitering type of person and in the wrong place. And with that, the agents actually were able to talk down, to activate the strobe lights, the alarms, and get the people off the property. By doing so, the property now became actually safe. The employees are able to come, and customers, very importantly, customers are actually able to come as well, right? So the store was saved by adopting this solution. So now you can see a tremendous ROI that you realize, right? A closing store is actually open because of their investment in the security and safety. I think that is what's actually happening across the board. We're seeing it for companies very large to very small, investing significantly in safety and security, and especially with the macro environment where there's this fear of recession, and this happened even in the 2008 to 2011 timeframe. Whenever there is this macroeconomic uncertainty, the investments in security go up. Why? Because losing like assets is one thing. Having any damage to either the customers or the like in terms of injury or life is pretty much a shutdown of the business, right? So at this macro environment, we are seeing significant demand for security solutions. All of these that you mentioned, Elizabeth, intrusion related, the video, as well as for access control, they want to invest in these. The part where other panelists also touched upon is around convergence. The convergence, and I think James also mentioned about convergence to a single platform of all these things coming together. We don't want just an access control system where a badge allows people in and out, which is completely operating independently from the video, which is being used by the owners to see whether the employees are coming in on time or not. Whether and then the third one is if you have security guards, they're using a completely different system to see whether the alarm got activated or not. Now, the innovation is actually bringing all these things together so that they work in cohesion, right? Where if you do have a problem at the access control, the videos are activated and the security personnel are able to see, oh, this is the employee, and make sure they're escorted to their location safely, right? And any unwanted people are actually prevented from entering in the first place. The video is actually becoming a multi-purpose tool, not only for safety and security, but for improving the operational effectiveness as well. And lastly, with the activation of these, or with this integration, any activation where you see a person tailgating or creating an unsafe environment is now relayed to the nearest security personnel. And in some cases could be even the law enforcement, who will be provided a very secure way and private way of accessing the feed only when required. All these innovations are making this absolute no-brainer in terms of return on investment to go for these integrated solution, a platform-based solution, and preferably in an OpEx model. They're able to realize the value immediately.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything you said is just right on in terms of these siloed, traditionally very siloed ecosystems that are being able to come together, overlap each other, be connected by a platform, and then here we are with delivering this very streamlined experience for the end user, whether they're a business or a consumer. We're certainly seeing this in the home space as well, and it's very complicated, and that complicated environment ultimately is driven by the network and the building, the infrastructure there. And so I want to go back to Matt here. I do have a few questions, but Matt, I'm going to come to you first here with this one. And just, can you explain a little bit more on the role of these different ecosystems? Where does energy fit in here when we're talking about access and control and, broadband services for really any kind of building? You could refer to multifamily or any retail environment that you'd like here. There's a lot there, and how is energy gonna play in all this?
Absolutely, and you had actually touched on this very early on in the presentation, where you had mentioned smart buildings, smart apartments is kind of the next biggest growing sector right now, and energy management is probably actually one of their largest focuses when they're looking at the overall performance of a residential apartment building. So what they're doing now is they're tying what are traditionally what we would think as security systems. So you think about your access control, your temperature control, your video systems, and everything's being implemented into a single platform that the property manager then can use to monitor situations. They can see if temperatures are low in certain areas, and then they can use the video verification beyond that, so they can see if doors are being left open. Or a lot of what's happening now is they're installing cameras in mechanical spaces. So then that way, if they're getting a mechanical alert through their BMS system or their building management system, they can then use their video verification to see what's going on in that mechanical space. And they no longer need to have somebody run down to that building. And as we had talked about and touched about before, if you're a property manager and let's say you have a fairly large, substantial portfolio that may even extend to various cities and not just in one location, you can now use your online platform to verify what's going on in each of the buildings without having to worry about calling somebody. Or you have something that's a little more instantaneous because you can log in through your virtual platform and you can see what's going on through your cameras. You're getting your notifications through the BMS system. You're getting it all tied together into a single platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important to note that you're not saying that technology can replace a human. It's that you're able to enhance the abilities of this human. Somebody is on the other side, but you have technology playing a new role that's making that human that much more effective, and also eliminating, I mean, everybody's human, so their errors are going to happen no matter how great they are, right? Because we are all human. So hopefully technology also has some error proofness to it. And we'll talk a little bit about false alarms as well. But let me go to a few questions from our audience here. So let's see if I can bring those up. The first one really is around privacy and data security with AI. So I'll throw it out and see who wants this one. What is the best way to approach consumers concerned about privacy and data security associated with artificial intelligence and video?
Maybe I can go first, and I'm sure Dominique would like to add as well from the pool perspective, right? So the first and foremost, the privacy is extremely important. We need to have all the safeguards in place. So the way we approach is the customer actually decides what is appropriate for their location, whether the information should be even stored. In many cases, AI actually improves the security in the sense there's no human involved until unless we see anything abnormal happening. Unlike if you think about what used to happen, you actually station a person who is sitting and watching, or you put a camera and have a person watch it. Instead, now this person could be gawking, so but with AI you actually don't involve any human being until unless you see an aberration. So in that sense, actually we strongly believe privacy is enhanced when you use AI to filter out all the routine activities. If people are going about their business, there is no need for any other human to actually look at the video cameras or at the premises. And with that as the basis, I think we operate on top. We save only the information that is needed. We convert all video or images into metadata, and we remove all personally identifiable information to the extent possible. We have to ensure as a community to adopt the highest possible standards for privacy and security. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a real challenge. Who else wants to answer this one? This is a big question. It's a big barrier for consumer adoption, and certainly can see why this could be a barrier for businesses as well. Dominique, you have any?
I'll jump in here. So consumers are very clear on what they don't want, and that is privacy concerns. So that's something we've really discovered, is that, if someone is not comfortable with a camera in the backyard, that's just a hard one to overcome. But where we are pushing towards is the idea that, well, if we can communicate it clearly, that all the processing happens on the camera, so actually on the edge rather than on the cloud, that adds this extra level of trust that we can try to bring to our customers. So that's something we're continuously trying to work on. How do we best explain and communicate that to our customers so that that worry goes out, right? But with all the cloud security that's happening, right, all of our emails, they're stored on the cloud, right? So it's a continuous path towards building that trust in robust software security in releases, and being able to communicate that with the customers, right? So that's a really key effort that we're focusing on, and I know everyone in the video surveillance space is.
Yeah, and there's definitely a responsibility here for, for somebody, for the devices, the service providers, everybody probably needs to be looking at how they can best protect that end user, especially in the world we're in. I know Alarm.com has a huge emphasis on privacy and security and really everything you guys offer. James, do you have any comments on this topic you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'll just weigh in a little bit on, I think that growing up in the residential space, as Alarm.com did, there was a whole different set of sensitivities as to what was appropriate for video. Folks at one time didn't want cameras in their house. Now they put them in their house pretty regularly so they could check on their animals and their kids. Businesses, I think, though, probably, and consumers are probably more tolerant, right? I don't know if I even like that word, but for the lack of a better word, we're pretty much accustomed to seeing a camera in any business we go into, in any public space. I think where the sensitivities lie, and Uday touched on this, that the business owner needs to make decisions that are appropriate. If you're in a healthcare facility, now you could potentially use video as PHI, public health information, to identify a patient. That might not be appropriate. So you may have to reconsider where you're putting cameras in certain types of businesses. I would imagine a veterinary clinic doesn't have the same concerns if you can identify that, a pet's coming in, or a convenience store. So I think it's probably just all relevant to the nature of the business and what regulatory things and sensitivities might be in place. But I think in general, there's a higher level of expectation to see video in commercial properties. That's just my opinion too.
Yeah, well, and I mean, we see it in our consumer research. The adoption of outdoor cameras is just crazy. Everybody's buying a camera for outside their house. Now, the inside of the home, we still see a lot of concerns, but there's a lot of different applications there. And like you said, these are sort of customized solutions dependent on the type of business, the size, all the things that Avery and Steve mentioned earlier. But I would like to go back to them because I think I've got a good question they can address. So Steve and Avery, this one's for you. What is a company's biggest reason for not wanting to use video for security, and how do you help overcome this challenge? And so, there's some on the selling side, and then some maybe on operational. So Steve, Avery, I'm not sure who might want to answer that.
I'll chime in. On somebody that is unsure of what they would like as far as CCTV or just video itself, you present them with the opportunity to describe to you what they want. Once you understand what they're not wanting, or what they are willing to allow you to understand their problems at hand, is it somebody coming into the shop, or is it somebody coming into their parking lot? Do you need a license plate recognition to allow somebody to open a gate? Depending on what AI that they are needing is assessing the solution for them. You may walk into a position to where somebody has a problem, but they don't understand how to fix it or what we can offer them to it. You allow them to show their case and plead to you what they dislike about what is happening in their environment. And once you understand that, that's where you can assess the actual space that you need to guide them to. And within AI, I mean, you can do facial detection, have the ability to allow non-alarms to be had. Same thing with just entering and exiting a building. Is that going to be via face? Is that via human, or is that via a badge? It doesn't. We allow ourselves to listen more than just go straight with a derivative in mind.
And so I definitely am hearing you saying you're not going out and just pitching AI, like, hey, buy some AI with cameras with AI, right? You're selling the experience, the benefit, the value that they can get out of the hardware and the services that are attached to it. And so it does come down to that relationship. Whoever said trust, that's always the word that comes up somewhere in these kinds of conversations. These ultimately are business relationships, or it could be, any relationship is built off of trust, right? And that is understanding what the person on the other end is expecting, and also working to meet those needs. So that consultative selling process, I think, is something that's happening in the home space that has to happen. And I imagine, Matt, with the building space and talking to property managers, you're really having to understand, what are their needs, what are they trying to accomplish, and then how can you effectively give or build a solution maybe that fits what they need.
Absolutely, and that's kind of what I focus on a day-to-day basis with most property managers and developers. We don't sell solutions. We don't say, hey, by the way, you need cameras, you need access control, you need intrusion detection. What we do is we sit down with them and we say, hey, what is the use of your building? How are people coming and going? What spaces are going to be publicly used? What is your daily flow, and what are you looking to get out of your building? We look at security as more of an amenity and a feature of a building versus being restrictive. And how do we stop people coming in, or how do we use cameras to see what's going on? We want to we talk to developers and property managers about how do we use the systems to be beneficial to gather the information you require, versus saying you need these items. We talk about how do you use your building? How do you want to see the information gathered? How are we going to use these things?
Great. And, all of these different technologies are doing great things, but I do want to bring up the false alarm issue. We hear about this from consumers as well. And we know technology is advancing, rapidly to help kind of eliminate the false alarm, the numbers of false alarms. But let's talk a little bit about the impact here, and is this technology helping to actually reduce false alarms, or is there, by chance, are we getting more false alarms coming in? And I'd like to start, Steve, if I could have you give your perspective of this, given you're with Vector, and then maybe we can go to James next, and then we'll Uday and Dominique, I think, probably have some comments on this topic too.
Sure, Elizabeth. So false alarms have always been an issue in the alarm industry, and the way technology and stuff has evolved, it has absolutely made a huge difference. Back in the even in today's world, depending on the municipality, alarm may go off, and they may be there in 30 minutes, they may be there in 2 hours. But now with the technology that has evolved, we've got video verification and things of that nature. So now when the alarm goes off, then the monitoring station, for an example, can look and see that, hey, there's something going on here. This isn't normal. And they can now send the police at a little bit higher priority, if you will, to get the police department out there that much quicker than back in the olden days. Because, you and I think all of us know and have been there that, false alarms occur all the time, and police got tired of responding to them because 90% of them are false alarms. Well, now in today's world with these cameras, the way that they've evolved, now we can see the event occurring and get the police out there that much quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. James, do you have any comments on false alarms, the role of AI in reducing them? And is that actually what's happening?
Yeah, so we see evidence that that's definitely happening. My purview is commercial, and I've had comments that we've caught more criminals with video in the last 18 months than we did in the prior 40 or 50 years with an intrusion alone. So that's kind of telling. At the end of the day, you would hope to strive for a world where it's binary. When an alarm goes off, that it's absolutely a yes, and law enforcement goes. In order for that to occur, you need to have more situational awareness. You need to be able to identify that if a vehicle pulled in and then it identified that a human was on the property, and what if I saw a card access swipe and then the alarm went off? Well, if it's a valid card access swipe and I recognize the individual in the vehicle, then I have the opportunity to do a cancel verify. That's super powerful. You haven't wasted law enforcement's time. And so the closer you can get to a binary outcome of yes, this is a go or this is a no-go, and empowering the user with some information, and taking data points from multiple devices. Video is a piece of it. Analytics is a huge piece of it. But ultimately, there's other contributing factors that you can make an educated and informed decision as to, is this an event or not?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know both Uday and Dominique, this is a specialty area of theirs. But Dominique, let's come to Dominique first. Uday, we'll get you next. Dominique, what would you like to say here about false alarms?
Yeah, so we're really focused on what we call the cry wolf phenomenon, where basically when you have too many alerts going on, the user starts ignoring these alerts. And in the case of a kid being in a backyard, that is not an alert you want to ignore, right? So we're really finely balancing to make sure our algorithms perform at the level to never have a false negative and to have as few false positives as possible, right? So that means that the false alarm is really a rare occasion that our users can build the trust of the system, right? And people actually, what we're seeing is that they're building this relationship nearly with the AI where they kind of feel when it is correct and when they don't feel it's correct. And that's a really interesting phenomenon, which we're trying to minimize and contain. So false alarms are absolutely critical, especially where, safety is at play.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Uday, I'll give you a quick comment here, and I have another question that's come in, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
No, absolutely. I think false alarms are completely, as Dominic mentioned, completely destroy the trust in the system, but also completely affect the economics. If you are the security providers, you need to hire more people. The police is wasting time. So absolute imperative, for us coming from the technology community to solve this problem. I'm very happy to say that the latest generation of AI solutions have pretty much mitigated this. We are seeing 99% filtration of false alarms, leading to the operators. Our customers now report, I'll just give one anecdote. There was a warehouse which was getting broken into repeatedly. Used to get all these 10, 15 alarms at night. He would ignore them. But once we put the AI, he basically stopped getting any alarms. And the one time he got the alarm, he actually 3 a.m., he woke up, called the police was there and apprehended. And as James mentioned, the apprehensions are actually going up, and police are now trusting the system as well. So I think this is definitely going in the right direction.
Well, yeah, and I know the SAIC, I think, or it might be the SIAC. Anyway, the association that also works with the police people has reported back that yes, false alarms are going down. It's still an issue, but progress certainly is being made with these advanced technologies. I want to get to this question here. There's two questions I'm going to throw out at the same time. One is about the rise of the hybrid and remote work environment, and whether this is going to create more demand or it will reduce demand. You know, will businesses need more? Our data is showing that right now, but we want to hear from you all if owners may be less inclined to invest in a comprehensive solution. So that's one of the questions. The other question has to do with lighting and connected lighting as a safety element in a system, and thinking about safety and security. So let's see, as far as the workforce, let me see, James, maybe you can answer that one for us, and as everybody think on that lighting question, who's interested in answering that one?
Sure. I think that, while the pandemic caused a few different catalysts, one of the biggest ones was just the whole idea of what would you do if you weren't at work and you needed to get data. And with a traditional on-premise system, you may not be aware, did I arm the system? Did I lock the doors? And so we saw a huge spike in folks that wanted remote connectivity to their businesses. So I think that there was just kind of a fork in the road that once they realized those technologies were available, it's just kind of continued to increase in the way of adoption and demand. It forced folks to look and understand what technologies were available. So the remote usage factor, I think, started before the hybrid workforce. And I think it's just accelerating all the way through. And I just think it'll probably be one of those things that we'll kind of forget, over time. It'll just be that will be the standard, that you would have remote systems and you wouldn't have to be local to review video or be able to tell if your system's armed or disarmed. I think businesses were in general further behind residential in that regard. And we got a lot of calls from loss prevention managers that would say, why is my home system more sophisticated than my business? I can tell that my home's armed. I can look at my video and I can tell that my door's locked, but I can't do that with my business. So it was definitely to me, a catalyst and kind of a turning point.
Yeah, absolutely. Really good points there. Okay, any comments on the idea of lighting being used as a deterrent and a connected solution versus video, or in with video solutions? Is there, Uday, you're nodding?
So the convenience store example that I gave, they actually find this to be extremely useful. So the whole idea is to create the appearance that the place is occupied from a safety and security perspective. And what we have designed is a system where whenever you see any person approaching, it automatically activates the lights and activates a talk-down feature, asking people, okay, hey, this property is protected. And with the advances in AI, we are actually able to recognize the person as well. When the person gets close enough, we can actually look at the face. You can actually speak to the person as though a human being is actually able to recognize them and is talking to them. And this has completely changed how security is now being done, because the folks who earlier would think, oh, this is a canned message, nobody's looking at me, are now completely, surprised that, somebody's not only looking at them, their lights getting activated in a random way, which shows there could be a person behind, but also there's a personalized message that is being played at them. And this is changing. I've seen it for myself, where this auto talk down has become very effective in preventing unauthorized people from basically accessing the property. But also, I think James was alluding to this, which is for the employees or for staff, they actually get recognized, and you can provide a VIP experience In some car dealerships, as your car pulls through, they know that you are a valuable customer, and we will provide you extra service, like greeting the person at the door or sending your star salesperson to go and meet this prospect. So we are seeing very innovative applications of artificial intelligence in using the infrastructure they already have, which is the cameras they already installed, and adding this AI layer to bring in better quality of experience and improving security of the premises also.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're hearing that from all sorts of different companies we work with, is using hardware and really extending its value with through new use cases and figuring out what those are, and then how to commercialize it into a business. So it's really fascinating. Certainly, I think the SMB market has been kind of like a stepchild, maybe behind the big enterprise, and then you have the consumer market. But we've got 31 million businesses, perhaps, some of that's looking for integrated security solutions that create convenience and peace of mind, and think that the industry is here and ready to deliver. So this has been a great conversation. I want to end with a final question. If you could keep your answers brief, because we're going to go through all of you, and just tell us, what do you expect to be different from now till next year? We didn't talk about labor. We didn't talk about supply chain. We did not talk about the economy. It's kind of scary out there. There is a lot of factors that are going to happen in the next 3, 6, 12, 18 months that are going to impact how new products are entering the market, how they're sold, and then, of course, what the adoption rates are. So would love to hear from each of you. We're going to end with James. We'll go last. And so let's maybe start with Matt first, and then we'll go to Avery, Steve, Dominique, Uday, and end with James.
I think what you're going to see over the next year is a lot more wide adoption of cloud-based recording systems and things that are more easily accessible through an app on the phone. So I think you're going to see the user experience vastly improve. And I think from a small to medium business side, and even from a commercial side, I think you're going to end up seeing a lot more things that are more similar to what you see in the consumer market. So you're going to have things that are going to be easier to use, easier to access, and things that could be more widespreadly adopted.
Awesome. Great comments. Avery?
I would like to second what Matt said. To be honest with you, that's very short and to the point. Within the app, people have the right range of being able to access and of basically anything they need at the tip of their fingers on their cell phone. Anybody goes anywhere, you have your cell phone. You have access badges to it. You have the access to your cameras. You can speak through your cameras via your phone. You can set off an alarm and talk to the intruder, even if you do see him coming into it. And the other end is data. I see data is still going to be a driving factor into the everyday workforce. And where that goes, I think that's kind of endless, to be honest with you. It's what do we want next is going to be the actual factor, is what data do we need?
Yep. Making meaning from the data. Absolutely. Great comments. Steve?
Sure. So, it's funny, when I started in this industry back in my younger days, 30 years ago, I remember telling people, when are we going to saturate this industry? When is it going to come to an end? And it's just amazing to hear, especially from the panel, the technology and the growth and the thoughts that are going behind the scenes. It's crazy where we've involved. But, obviously from our standpoint, it's going to be absolutely more on the remote side. That has absolutely just been taken off. Again, can't thank Alarm.com behind the scenes of making that happen. And the cloud base, I can't agree any more with that. On the cloud base, seems like almost every opportunity we're involved in now, they're asking, how can I save my data? How can I secure it back in the cloud? So, I'm just looking forward to what the future brings this alarm industry.
Yeah, lots of growth. I think Trisha Parks had some of that vision back with you a few years back on how quickly the market was going to unfold, and it has taken some time. Dominique, we'll hear from you next.
Yeah, so I put my bets on next year where we'll see a large increase of applications using the same product, right? Well, today, you have a certain set of feature offerings for our customers. what you'll see in the coming years is that we're going to start expanding. Your camera will allow us to control your lights, your garage opening, all these other things. So it's going to provide flexibility across feature applications, right? So that's really where I think we're going to see a big expansion in the space.
Awesome. Very optimistic, positive comments. That's great to hear. Uday?
So I agree with all the panelists about how the technology is almost going to be like human-like. I'll add to the financial part. I actually expect a lot more insurance companies asking businesses, not only that they have an alarm system, but do they have cameras? And are these cameras monitored live, either through human or through AI, and preferably both? And they will start actually subsidizing businesses for having this. And I think that will completely change how security will be sold. And you will see a much widespread adoption once insurance gets into the act. So I'm hoping for that to happen in the next year or so.
Well, yeah, and I think insurance is coming up to the table, right? They've been watching and playing and looking. We, done a lot of work with the different insurance companies, but it's coming big time, and there's huge implications there if you think of multifamily, the number of people in a building, and in the commercial building world too. So that's going to be a lot. Okay, and last but not least, James, let's hear from you on where this is all headed in the next year.
Yeah, so thank you. In fear of being redundant, I will say, though, I completely agree with the panelists, and particularly Uday and the role that even the service providers will play. I think that they will adopt more things in the central station and create more validation of what's happening at the property. So I think that's a great service that they'll be able to add. And I think that the thing that I would say that maybe the panelists haven't said is there's a continuation of customer expectations and what they expect. I think that, people refer to it as the Uber effect or the Amazon effect or Netflix, but there is a certain expectations that things should be easy to use, and that the acceleration of these technologies, the expectation is getting higher and higher. They would probably, I don't think that anybody wanted to have 3 systems. As they become more familiar with the ability to do everything on one app and one system, the market expectation will change. So I think Steve's point earlier in the conversation was that there's still a lot of education happening, but I do think that that's kind of starting to evolve. As buyers get younger, as entrepreneurs get younger, they're more technical by nature. So they're pretty familiar with what's available, and they're just trying to figure out, what exactly fits into their business and their processes, and what problems can they solve with the technology. So I think that the bar is rising as far as what their expectations are because of what they're doing in their personal lives, right? So, and I think that's exciting and fun to be a part of that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, really good points. Those expectations also driven by the number of choices in the market that are being introduced, everything from how things get installed to the number of systems that are connected and the information that's coming out. So very good points. Well, gentlemen, I want to thank you all very much for your time today and joining this conversation. Also, want to thank Alarm.com for their support. So thanks for joining us. I hope you can come back for more connections, virtual sessions, as well as in person next year.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So just to follow up here, the research that I showed today was from Parks Associates research study, the new SMB landscape. If you're interested in more information about that, we touched on trust, personalization, consultative selling, the role of education. And I think the biggest thing here, context is king. And so that role of video verification, video analytics, and data in the future is going to be huge. I want to really thank our sponsor, Alarm.com, for this special session. This is a huge area of investment, lots of opportunity. And so reach out to Alarm.com if you'd like more information about what they're working on.